What if I told you that the greatest threat to your freedom isn't an enemy abroad, but the very institution claiming to protect you? In The Anatomy of the State, Murray Rothbard exposes a dark truth. The state doesn't serve you, it serves itself. And the more you trust it, the more power it takes. This video will change the way you see power forever. Let's start with the lie we've all been told. We are the government. Rothbard calls this the most dangerous myth in political philosophy. If we are the government, then every act of state violence is violence we commit on ourselves. When the IRS seizes your property, you did it to yourself. When the government drafts you to fight a war, it's your own will. Absurd, right? If we are the government, why do we go to jail when we disobey it? The truth is, the state is a separate entity. It's a monopoly of force, and you are its subject, not its owner. The phrase "we are the government" is not just a harmless cliché, it's the root of political obedience. It convinces people to accept injustice as self-inflicted, to internalize submission as civic duty. Think about jury duty. You're forced under penalty of law to serve, yet you're told it's a privilege. That's not choice, that's coercion disguised as civic virtue. During World War I, dissenters were imprisoned for speaking out against the draft. According to the myth, they were punishing themselves because they were the government. Rothbard calls this gaslighting on a mass scale. It's the same logic used by abusive systems. You agreed to this, you voted for this, it's your fault. This illusion creates learned helplessness. If every action by the state is somehow your action, then you feel powerless to resist it. It becomes easier to rationalize oppression than to admit you're being oppressed. If then, the state has committed murder, theft, and slavery, the only way it can rest easy is to convince its subjects that it has done none of these things, and that in fact, it has been protecting them all along. Consider surveillance. Governments expand spying programs, claiming it's for our safety. But who decided that? When was the last time we voted to be watched? Rothbard's genius is showing that the state doesn't even need to hide its power, it just needs you to believe that its power is yours. Imagine if a burglar broke into your house, stole your TV, and then left a note saying, "You agreed to this, it's for the greater good." That's the logic of "we are the government." The next time someone says, "That's just how the system works," ask who benefits from that system, and who gets punished for stepping outside it. Because the truth is, the system was never built by us. It was built by a small group that needs you to believe in a story to keep their power intact. So the next time you hear "we are the government," remember what Rothbard reveals? The state is not your reflection, it's your master. And that myth, that gentle, patriotic illusion, is what allows every future abuse to begin without resistance. But if the state isn't us, if it's something above us, how exactly does it operate? In the next section, we'll uncover the two fundamental ways humans acquire wealth, and why the state always chooses the darker path. Now that we understand the state isn't us, we can ask, how does it function? Rothbard says there are two ways human beings acquire wealth. One is moral, the other is political. The first, the economic means, is simple. You produce something of value. You trade, you cooperate voluntarily. That's how markets work. The second, the political means, is the opposite. You don't produce, you take. You use force, theft, or fraud to acquire wealth you didn't earn. And this, says Rothbard, is the lifeblood of the state. When you go to a grocery store, you trade money for food. That's the economic means. When the government taxes your income under threat of imprisonment, that's the political means. Feudal kings didn't plow the land, they taxed the peasants who did. Empires didn't grow food, they seized it. Throughout history, the ruling class enriched itself not by creating but by extracting. In the 21st century, the same dynamic exists. Bureaucracies and politicians take credit for roads and schools, but who paid for them? Who decided how the money was used? The state is unique because it uses the political means, but cloaks it in legitimacy. Taxation becomes civic duty. Regulation becomes safety. War becomes defense. The state is the only organization in society that acquires its revenue not by voluntary exchange, but by coercion. Private companies can't force you to buy from them. They must earn your trust. But the state operates without consent, because its power doesn't depend on service but on force. Ever tried opting out of taxes, or government licensing? You'll quickly discover the difference between a free choice and a legal obligation. Even welfare, Rothbard argues, is not a net good when it's extracted by force. Helping others is noble, but forcing one group to serve another through coercive redistribution is not charity, it's legalized plunder. Imagine if a gang demanded 30% of your income for community services and sent you to prison if you refused. That's taxation, minus the flags and lawyers. The point here is not to dismiss every function of government, but to reveal the method by which it funds itself. Coercion is the tool, monopoly is the structure, and consent is optional. In the free market, bad service leads to bankruptcy. In government, bad service leads to a bigger budget. Why? Because failure is rewarded with more power to fix the very problems it causes. He believed that recognizing this truth about the political means was the first step to understanding why state power always grows and why it rarely shrinks without crisis or collapse. The economic means require persuasion. The political means require obedience. Which one sounds more like freedom to you? So if the state survives by taking rather than producing, how does it get people to accept this arrangement? In the next section, we'll explore how propaganda, education, and fear are used to keep you compliant and grateful for it. So, how does the state maintain its grip on society despite its parasitic nature? According to Rothbard, it doesn't survive through strength alone, but through deception, indoctrination, and emotional manipulation. The state uses these tactics to create an illusion of legitimacy and necessity, ensuring its continued existence and control over the populace. From school textbooks to evening news broadcasts, the state works tirelessly to shape how you perceive it. This control extends to every aspect of information you consume daily. Students are taught to revere presidents, memorize patriotic slogans, and see the government as the ultimate protector. Rarely are they taught the costs of taxation, the failures of bureaucracy, or the dangers of centralized power. Instead, the narrative often glorifies state actions and downplays its shortcomings. The state has institutionalized a class of court intellectuals whose job is to make theft look like service, war look like defense, and obedience look like virtue. These intellectuals are crucial in maintaining the state's power and legitimacy, ensuring that the public remains compliant and supportive of its actions. Mainstream media often uncritically echoes government talking points. Politicians don't lie, they misspeak. Wars aren't started, they break out. The media's role in shaping public perception is crucial, often blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Have you noticed how every new government program is marketed as "for your safety" or "for the public good"? The packaging is always emotional, never logical. This emotional appeal is designed to bypass critical thinking and make you accept the program without question. It's a tactic used to manipulate public perception and gain support. State-run schools teach not just facts, but loyalty. Children grow up learning what the state wants them to believe, that it's neutral, benevolent, and necessary. This indoctrination ensures future generations remain compliant and supportive of the state's agenda, perpetuating its power and influence over society. The educational system is the state's most powerful weapon. Indoctrinate early and you'll never need to oppress later. Control the minds of the young and you control the future. How many students graduate knowing about the Federal Reserve, fiat currency, or how inflation works? Most don't. But they can recite the Pledge of Allegiance by heart. This is a clear example of educational control. When propaganda isn't enough, fear steps in. The state thrives in emergencies, real or manufactured. It's a powerful tool to control and manipulate the masses. After 9/11, the U.S. government passed the Patriot Act, expanding surveillance powers. Most citizens complied, believing it was temporary and necessary. Decades later, the surveillance remains, raising concerns about privacy and civil liberties. The debate continues as technology advances, making surveillance more pervasive and sophisticated. During the COVID-19 pandemic, emergency declarations justified lockdowns, censorship, and unprecedented central control over daily life. Governments worldwide imposed restrictions, altering the social and economic fabric of societies. The state creates a crisis, panics the people, and then offers itself as the solution. This cycle of crisis and control is a hallmark of its power. Every time you hear the phrase national emergency, ask what powers are they about to take and will they ever give them back? Remember, history shows that such powers are rarely relinquished once seized. The state elevates itself to near-religious status with flags, anthems, monuments, and ceremonies, creating a sense of unity and reverence among its citizens. When people stand for a flag or repeat an oath, they participate in a collective emotional ritual. This creates a powerful association between identity and obedience, reinforcing societal norms and unity. Military flyovers at sporting events, presidential seals, and courtroom portraits all reinforce the sacred image of the state as guardian and judge. These symbols are designed to evoke respect and loyalty. All of these tactics, education, media, fear, and symbolism, work together to create what Rothbard called a manufactured legitimacy. This legitimacy is crucial for maintaining the state's power and control over society. Because if people believe the state is moral, necessary, and good, they will tolerate anything, from taxation to surveillance to war. This belief system is deeply ingrained, making it difficult for individuals to question or challenge the authority of the state. But here's the danger. The more convinced people are that the state is righteous, the less willing they are to question its abuses. Always stay vigilant and question authority. So what happens when someone breaks the illusion? When dissent becomes dangerous? When the facade starts to crumble? In the next section, we'll look at how the state responds when its control is threatened, and why disobedience, not violence, is its greatest fear. Stay tuned. Every state, no matter how powerful, harbors one deep, unshakable fear: losing its grip on the people. Rothbard argues that the state's survival depends not just on power, but on preventing rebellion, resistance, or even disobedient thought. Why? Because disobedience undermines legitimacy. Violence the state can handle, it can respond with force, but mass noncompliance reveals the emperor has no clothes. Think about Gandhi's Salt March in India. It wasn't a military rebellion, but it threatened British rule by exposing the absurdity and injustice of their monopoly on something as basic as salt. Digital dissent, whistleblowing, and public refusal to obey mandates strike at the state's core because they bypass the accepted channels of permission and control. The state lives by the consent of the governed, not the enthusiastic consent, but the silent, fearful kind. The more a citizen believes their silence is consent, the more the state thrives, but when silence breaks, the spell weakens. When people begin to question or resist, the state ramps up control. During the civil rights movement in the United States, peaceful protesters were met with surveillance, intimidation, and violence, not because they posed a military threat, but because they challenged the moral order the state wanted to project. Labeling. The state uses language to neutralize dissent. Protesters become agitators. Critics become radicals. Truth-tellers become threats to national security. When speech becomes labeled as dangerous, you should ask, dangerous to whom? Beyond physical suppression, the state wages psychological warfare. Dissenters are isolated, mocked, deplatformed. Their reputations are tarnished to discourage others from joining. Whistleblowers like Edward Snowden or Julian Assange are prosecuted not only for what they revealed, but for challenging the sacred image of the state as protector. It's not the act of leaking that the state punishes, it's the betrayal of faith. To suppress rebellion, the state repeats one idea endlessly. You agreed to this, you live in a democracy, you voted, you consented. He destroys this logic by pointing out that true contracts require voluntary informed consent, not birth into a system with no exit. Imagine being born into a mafia family and told that paying them protection money is your choice. That's the myth of the social contract. Once you realize you never agreed to this arrangement, the illusion of legitimacy begins to crumble. Rothbard believed that ideas, once widespread, are more powerful than bullets. Totalitarian regimes don't fall from external attack. They collapse when people stop believing. The Berlin Wall didn't fall because of a missile strike. It fell because enough people realized it was a lie. The true revolution begins in the mind, with critical thinking, with speaking out, with refusing to obey what feels wrong. The state's greatest fear isn't a protest, it's a population that stops needing it. A society that realizes freedom doesn't require permission. So if the state is built on illusion and sustained by fear, what's the alternative? In the next section, we'll explore Rothbard's vision of a voluntary, cooperative society, where freedom, not force, defines the rules. If the state is based on coercion, illusion, and fear, then what's the alternative? Rothbard offers a vision both radical and refreshingly simple, a society based on voluntary cooperation. The biggest myth defenders of the state rely on is this: without it, there would be chaos. But Rothbard flips the idea: it is the state that injects chaos into human cooperation. Markets don't need police to function. People buy, sell, create, and trade every day without anyone forcing them to. Local communities organize schools, mutual aid, and support networks with no bureaucratic oversight. The more complex a society becomes, the more essential it is to decentralize and demonopolize power. Liberty is not a vacuum. It's a framework where responsibility, ethics, and social harmony can flourish without centralized coercion. Free markets are driven by consent, pricing, and competition. Governments operate through compulsion, monopoly, and protected inefficiency. Consider healthcare. In free markets, prices drop and quality rises. In government-run systems, bureaucracy swells and innovation stalls. When a company fails, it disappears. When a government agency fails, it demands a bigger budget. Ask yourself, would you trust the DMV to run your grocery store? If not, why trust the same logic to run your life? What about law and order? Rothbard argues that courts, insurance systems, and arbitration could be provided competitively, like any other service. Private security, neighborhood mediation, and community juries have all existed, and still do, outside state systems. Justice does not require a monopoly. It requires fairness, transparency, and accountability, all of which the state routinely avoids. Opponents say, people are too selfish to self-govern, but Rothbard counters, if people can't be trusted to run their own lives, how can they be trusted to run others? Freedom doesn't deny human flaws, it accepts them, and builds systems where bad behavior is punished economically, not politically. Online platforms, rating systems, and decentralized governance models already reward cooperation and punish fraud without a central enforcer. We already live in countless examples of voluntary order. We just fail to recognize them because we've been trained to look for control instead of cooperation. Rothbard doesn't ask you to believe in utopia, only to question the assumption that force is necessary for peace. Voluntary society isn't perfect, but it's moral, it's dynamic, and most importantly, it's yours. The state is not salvation, it's the enemy of genuine human progress. What would a world without the state look like to you? Would it be chaos or something far better? Let me know in the comments. And if this opened your eyes, subscribe, because here, we question everything they told you to believe. So now that you've seen the state for what it is, what will you do with that knowledge? Will you keep believing it protects you, or will you start questioning the power it claims? Leave a comment. Is the state necessary or just an illusion of control? And if you found this breakdown powerful, subscribe for more videos that challenge the way you see the world. Truth is the first